Do you prefer shopping at Costco or at Walmart? In any case, I do have my favorite dividend grower in this one. Fellow investors, bonjour. This is Mike Leroux, founder of Dividend Stocks Rocks and passionate investor. You're listening to the Dividend Guy blog podcast where I and my co-host Véronique will help you invest with more conviction so you can enjoy your retirement. Dividend Gold investors, bonjour. Mike Leroux here. You're listening to the Dividend Guy podcast. I am with my co-host Véro. How are you doing, Véronique?
Mike, I'm doing good. You know what? I'm having a hairdo tonight. And I know that you don't get the feeling because you don't need them anymore.
Anymore? I mean, it's been like 25 years now?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you know what? Besides comparing our hair, because, look at this.
Yeah, seriously.
We will compare two good contenders today, Costco and Walmart. As this question often comes up during our webinars, I thought it could be a good topic for an episode. Of course, the goal is to share Mike's views on both companies, but also to give you the tools to do it on your own, listeners.
Throughout this episode, we're going to give you a framework to compare two companies so you will be in a better position to not just know which one is the best between Costco and Walmart, but actually apply that template to pretty much any other companies in the same sector.
And before we start, please do not consider our thoughts and opinions as buy or sell recommendations. Always do your full due diligence. So, Mike, while both companies are part of the consumer staples sector and the discount stores industry, their business models are quite different, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's really important to understand the business model first so you're in a better position in the future to look at the metrics and to be able to put them into a context. So Walmart, I mean, of course, we're comparing two giant of the industry here. Walmart has a market capitalization over $500 million. It is quite crazy because these days we're talking about those huge, large cap, but they're all tech stocks. But yet Walmart at 531 billion, it's a pretty decent company.
Mm-hmm.
It operates over 10,000 stores across many countries. So on their website, last time I've checked, we had 4,600 Walmart store in the US, almost 600 Sam's Club. They're a little bit equivalent to Costco warehouse model that we're going to talk about later on. Walmart International, 5,400. So for a total of like 10,600 stores. They have everything, anything. They do have like everything that you need. I remember when I was driving throughout North America and Central America, well, obviously past Mexico, I haven't crossed a Walmart, so I don't know if there are any. But I remember that in the States, we usually stop there. Actually, we were able to get the grocery done, buy some stuff for the RV, do some repairs, and actually have my children haircuts because still at that date back then, it was not a topic for me. But all of that we were able to find everything that we needed into one place. So it's really a buy it all at Walmart. On the other side, we have Costco that has a warehouse business model. So still pretty large market capitalization, so 375 billion, but not as diverse in terms of countries. So the bulk of their stores, we found 591 warehouse stores in the US, 107 in Canada, and the rest includes all international presence. It's only 163 stores, so for a total of 861. So completely different in terms of more than 10,000 for Walmart, less than 1,000 with Costco. Similar to that regard, they have about 4,000 SKUs. So the SKUs are the types of products that are labeled there. while Walmart, like a typical store at Walmart, would have around 140,000 SKUs.
Hmm.
So a lot more diversification in terms of products.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you a little bit more of an idea, we also have about 30,000 on average for a supermarket. So really, Costco is almost like a niche type of products. Even at 4,000, still more than niche, but you can get the idea. Like 4,000 versus 140, that is a pretty big difference. And the latest point of diversification here is the membership. So Walmart, of course, everybody can walk in, while you need a Costco card to be
Mm-hmm.
able to shop over there.
And you know what, Mike? I was discussing the warehouse being part of the store at Costco with my husband recently, and he said, but it's the same for big places like Loblaws or Walmart. And I was like, no, it's not. And it may seem like a detail, but please explain how it's different and why it's one of Costco's advantages.
It's definitely different because at Costco, and it started like this, where they would order like large orders of products. They would just put them in literally like in the middle of the store, not even having the time to put that on a shelf, and then people would just start picking stuff out of it. So you're not going to see that at Loblaws, you're not going to see that at Walmart or at Targets. So it's completely different in terms of that. Other differences is, as I said before, the membership. Which is interesting about the membership is they have a crazy renewable rate. So the renewal rate is like above 90%. So everybody that has a Costco card pretty much keeps it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the profit the revenue they make from the membership payments is almost equal to their bottom line, so their profit. So Costco is like, we're going to negotiate the lower price possible, and then we're going to give it back to our members, and the members are going to generate profit for us by paying their membership fee. The other difference they have is because since they have less products in their stores, they are not the largest buyers across all products, but when they go see their supplier, they are their biggest buyer. So as opposed that Walmart would sell like, I don't know, like 50 different types of toothbrush, while Costco will have like one single model pack of like 56 that you have to buy, and then you're gonna keep them forever. But that helps them to become the biggest buyer for the supplier, so it gives a little bit more negotiating power when it comes down to have a deal. And finally, because you have to buy in bulk for the clients, well, it attracts kind of like richer clients, because it's like most of the time we see people getting out of Costco with like $500, $1,000, $1,500 bill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you can afford to pay $1,500 at Costco, definitely you're not like on minimum wages. So it will attract a richer type of clientele that has not only the mean to buy more, but will also become recurrent client, which is a
Mm-hmm.
little bit harder to get those $700, $1,000 bill at Walmart on their rigoring cases.
Now, Costco and Walmart both show a strong dividend triangle. However, Costco's one seems even more robust, right?
Yeah, definitely. When you look at the revenue growth for the past 5 years, the 5 years annualized growth rate for Walmart is close to 5%, while for Costco, we're in the double digits. So it's 11% growth. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of earnings, though, Walmart has done some pretty good margin improvements. So over the past 5 years, we're up 20%, while Costco is up 15%. Here, I would put just a little asterisk on that comparison, because you also have to consider the trend. Sometimes just a number like this will show you huge growth, but because there was a huge dip before that. And this is what happened with Walmart. So the earnings per share graph, when you look at it, you put it into perspective over the past 10 years, it goes up and it goes down depending on where you start. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like changes a little bit. Yes, it's 20% analyzed growth rate, but it's not a like a straightforward line that is starting from 2015 all the way to 2024. So it's more about a data point in time. If we record this podcast next year and the following years, since 2019, the EPS that was pretty much as its bottom and then it went back up. So of course the numbers will be slower as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to Costco that is showing what I usually call a perfect dividend triangle, where the revenue and the earnings per share growth is pretty much going hand in hand, pointing towards the same direction. And we do not have like a set, like a few quarters, like 3-4 quarters of decrease in any of those, as it's not the case for Walmart. So Walmart shows a little bit more shaky earnings in that regard. And that also reflects to the latest point of the dividend triangle. So we have reviewed revenue, we reviewed earnings per share. The last one is dividend growth. So we're talking about like a 2% dividend growth rate over the past 5 years for Walmart, as opposed to a small 12% for Costco, plus a special dividend about every other year. They pay a special dividend on top of increasing their dividend double digit. So in this case, we can definitely see that while both companies offer a strong dividend triangle, and I would sleep well at night holding any of those,
Mm-hmm.
Costco is definitely more about growth here.
And the trend for Costco, like you've mentioned, is pretty much equal for the three of them. It's all double digits, while Walmart is a little bit like more.
Yeah. And just like seeing the numbers, 11, 15, 12, we're almost 1 or 2% apart from one to the other. So
Mhm.
definitely, and they're all straight lines aiming to the top. So that's kind of crazy.
All right. So, what are Costco and Walmart's growth vectors now, Mike?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because they have two different strategies. So Walmart is really good on the online business with their e-commerce platform, and I must admit I was skeptical when they first started. Back in like 2016, 2017, I even wrote articles comparing Amazon to Walmart to Target, and I
Yeah.
was saying, you know what? Definitely Target will be a bust. Walmart, I'm definitely not convinced, and Amazon is clearly going to win the e-commerce platform. What I underestimated back then, even though my choice for Amazon was not that bad. What I underestimated was the ability of Walmart and also Target that did that, and many others after that, is to use their wide network of stores as a distribution hub. So now they can either have this as like a warehouse where they have like exactly the products that people are ordering online and then do the delivery, or even better, you can pick it up directly there. So you order online, your order is ready, you just drive to the nearest Walmart, you pick it up, you
Hmm.
come back home, you don't have to wait for anything. So it was a pretty interesting business model. So obviously Amazon was not able to use their stores to distribute that. So that was an interesting advantage, and that has done very well over the past almost 10 years now. They also invested massively on that platform, which definitely didn't hurt. The other thing is, of course, in terms of growth, since they are present across the world, well, the overall population growth, overall economic growth will also support Walmart's growth across the years. It's not going to be like crazy thriving business where you're going to see like high single digit to double digit growth, but you can expect what we've seen so far. So a 4, 5, 6% revenue growth rate every year, that could be quite stable for them. Finally, one of their biggest advantage as well is their ability to scale. So I already discussed the number of stores across the world. So they are like a large buyer. They have stores everywhere. So it's really
Hmm.
easy for them to benefit from economies of scale. As for Costco, they they're pretty much behind in terms of e-commerce, and we're going to talk about that later on today, but that's definitely not necessarily a growth vectors for them. We're talking about less than 10% of their sales that are being made online, so that's not part of it. So their main growth vectors is still opening new stores, which is great because they have plenty of room on the international side. However, most of their business is still concentrated in North America, even more specifically in the US.
Hmm.
But they still have room to grow over there. They're not saturated yet, so they will continue to open new stores there and new stores across the world. The great advantage here is they don't necessarily need to open like 100 stores a year to be in fast growth, because each stores are generating a lot of profit. The other thing that I really like about Costco, of course, it's the membership model, where it creates sustainable and predictable cash flow. The
Mm-hmm.
renewal rate, as I mentioned before, is through the roof. So they have loyal customers that want to save time. They don't want to like figure out if they're paying the best price or not. So they pay the membership, they go there, they fill up the cart, they go back home, and they're happy. So those are great growth vectors in the future, because when you can count on loyal customers and you can benefit from your economies of scale, that drive some very strong margin.
And you know what, listeners? If you're new to the show, Mike does have a membership website. This is why he likes membership business models so much. You
I
can
got
have a
cut
look.
off. There you go. You got me.
So you can have a look at dividendstocksrock.com. Okay, but Mike, nothing's perfect. So how would you describe Costco and Walmart's potential downsides and risks?
Yeah, so once you get very excited about all the business model, the strong dividend triangle, and the growth perspective, it's about time that we get back down to earth to really
Mm-hmm.
see, okay, what could go wrong? Because it's one thing to believe that, oh, I'm going to buy Walmart or I'm going to buy Costco and I'm going to like see those stocks going up and up and up, and then the dividend's going to come in and we're all going to be retiring happy and it's going to be like a pinky ride. Unfortunately, this is not what's happening most of the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it is important also to understand the weakness of the business you buy for two reasons. The first one is you may be able to monitor those quarterly when you do the review, so you're a little bit more alert to what's going on. And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing is, if it's a temporary thing, well, you'll be able to identify why the stock is not performing on a given year, and then you'll be in a better position to just relax, take a pause, not look at it too much, and not panic sell. So this is why it's so important to look at the potential risks. So for Walmart, one thing that I really don't like is the weak growth potential, especially when I compare both. So yes, they can grow, but on the one side, the e-commerce, while it shows usually pretty decent growth numbers, a part of those sales are actually cannibalization of their in-store sales. So literally, if I'm home and I want to buy something at Walmart, I could just take my car, drive to Walmart, do the line, and then go back home. Or I could order online, get at Walmart, and buy it there. But I mean, it's the
Right.
same item that I'm buying.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no difference, but the e-commerce sales are showing that it's growing just because the habit is moving from I don't want to enter in a store to I can order online and get it delivered or just pick it up like quicker than entering the store. So there is limited growth potential for that reason. The other thing is there's a lot of competition from Amazon, even though
Mm-hmm.
Walmart has become a strong number two. Still, Amazon and online commerce is still like pushing them. It's going to be a battle of margin. So it's a good thing they have strong economies of scale. But yet, if you have like headwinds against your margin, that means that earnings are going to be a little bit tougher to grow. And this is exactly what we have seen over the past 10 years. When you look at the EPS graph, it's not always growing. It's not always a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I don't like too much is the valuation, and we're going to talk a little bit more about valuation later down in this show. But at 26 times its earnings, I feel we are paying a lot for a company that doesn't grow that fast. So a PE ratio of 26 doesn't seem like crazy, but 26 for a company that will at best grow mid-single digit, I'm not convinced it's a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, when we look at Sam's Club, which is the warehouse business model, very similar to Costco, it greatly underperformed its competitors. So Costco is doing everything better in that case. So all, overall, it's a well-diversified company, but the growth is limited. There's a lot of competition. And while e-commerce numbers are great, part of it is just people changing their habit from going in stores to going online. As for Costco, well, the first thing, and it's quite obvious, is the crazy valuation. It seems that Costco is always trading at its all-time high, and it's always trading at like P/E ratio above 40 times their earnings. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a steep price to pay. It's hard to pull the trigger when it's not when it's that time, and we have seen period in the past for many companies, and actually Walmart was one of those victims after the tech bubble. Kind of ironic because the tech bubble had nothing to do with Walmart. But in the 2000s, the stock price kind of like stayed the same because it was such high, richly valued before. Then even when earnings was going up after that, the stock price remained the same just to see the PE going down. So
Mm.
maybe at one point it's going to happen to Costco if ever the market doesn't see double digit growth. It is definitely a big risk. So it's going to change its valuation view. Other thing is they kind of miss the online train. Yes, they do have an online platform, but they have not invested that much on that.
Mm-hmm.
They have been definitely late in the game. It seems like they're almost did it on purpose. So definitely not going to be a big growth vector for them. On the other side, I mean, I cannot really imagine myself ordering a full truck delivering of stuff from Costco. So maybe that's also the reason you pretty much have to go there to buy all of your stuff. But anyways, they missed on that opportunity. And the growth potential internationally is very interesting, but it's not necessarily happening that fast these days. So
Mm.
even for this year, they expect to add about like four new stores, four or five new stores between the end of 2023 to the end of 2024. So four international stores is not what I call big growth. So they still
Mm-hmm.
focus on the US. I mean, it's going well, but at one point it's going to reach a saturation point, and they almost have 30% of their sales coming from the state of California alone. So once again, if we're hit by a big economic crisis, it could also hurt their sales.
Mike, just a side note, I'm not familiar with Sam's Club. Is it a membership store too, or?
It is a membership store. It's literally like a copy paste of what Costco does, but they have not been able to do it as good as Costco in terms of numbers.
All right, so between both, which one would you find more equipped to face the Amazon competition and why?
They have different issues. So for Walmart, of course, they're literally like head to head. But Walmart is a very solid number two in the online business. As I said, they have their stores as hubs for distribution or warehouses for people to pick up stuff. So it's going to be a battle of margin, but in the end, it could definitely do well. As for Costco, since it requires you to buy in bulk, it's less in competition that way with Amazon.
Mm.
So again, it's a little bit harder to order like 50 items, like actually 50 of the same items at Amazon. It's kind of like unusual, but you're gonna do that for Costco. And if you go into like smaller items, definitely Amazon's going to be a bigger winner. But overall, they can definitely coexist with Amazon. And keep in mind, Amazon is not perfect either. There is one thing to consider. There is most of the time you're going to shop at Amazon for the convenience, but you don't care that much about the price, where Walmart is going to offer you like the lowest price in many options, and
Hmm.
Costco is like kind of like in between. It's going to be a good deal, but you have to buy a lot of it.
Hmm. And all that said, Walmart has a larger market cap and a stronger presence across the world, like you've mentioned at the beginning. Its reputation precedes itself. We can find everything and anything at a cheaper price. So, doesn't this make it a bit more resilient to tough economic situations than Costco, for which you need a membership?
Yeah, I see. They're both resilience, but again, for different reasons. For Walmart, they benefit from a very large exposure to all markets. So the geographic diversification is great. Small items, cheap items, as you said, it's great to attract clients, especially during economic downturns. And they benefit from economies of scale. So they could work out on their margin a little bit more as well to attract clients and maybe to crush some competitions that do not have this advantage.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the spectrum, we have Costco that's still going to sell at a pretty decent price. They will benefit from the high renewal rate of their membership as a stable source of income. And they also have richer clients that are less exposed to recession. So I would say on one hand, Walmart is likely going to do a little bit better overall, but Costco will go from fast growth mode to like medium or slow growth if we have a recession. But in both cases, I would definitely sleep well at night. I would not be worried.
Hey, dividend growth investors, this is Vero. Mike is currently taking a sip of water, which gives us 10 seconds, and I literally mean 10 seconds to grow the podcast together. Go on Spotify or Apple Podcast, hit pause, and then under our logo, you'll see two very interesting buttons. One to subscribe, hit that subscribe button now, and then give us a 5-star rating. You know, our goal is to help more investors just like you, so please spread the love. Thank you. Okay, so I know you don't put much importance to valuation, but what does the P ratio trend look like for both stores?
Well, when you're about to buy and you have looked at the business model, the financial metrics, and then you have shaped your investment thesis around the growth vectors, understanding the downsides, it's still important at one point to say, well, am I paying too much for a stock? Because it is also possible. I'm the kind of investors that just wants to buy amazing companies. I don't mind too much about the price. I may get burned down the road. So far, it has been doing well for me, but still, I have to consider this. What I like to do is to look at the company's current and forward P ratio and compare it to its average of the past 5 years. So typically, the market will give about the same valuation over time, unless there's a big change in the business model or in the environment. When we're thinking about big discount retailers like Walmart and Costco, not much has changed in the past 5 years. So it's only normal to see the market being able to pay relatively the same valuation, the same multiple. So for Walmart, the current P ratio is at 34, the forward is at 26, which I'm going to give more weight for the 26 because this is what's going to come up in the next 12 months, as opposed to the average of 31. So in this case, Walmart seems a little bit undervalued. When we look at the yield, it's pretty much aligned though. So it currently pays a yield of 1.26 and the average over the past 5 years at 1.5. So there's not much of a difference here. But if I have to say, it's slightly better value than Costco. Because for Costco, we're talking about a forward P ratio of like 49. It's already crazy, but the average of the past 5 years at 39. So then again, you kind of have to you have to buy the P in bulk on top of anything else when you're shopping at Costco. Having said that, I bought it about a year ago, like throughout the fall of 2023. Can't remember exactly which month, but it was like after September. It was still trading not at a appealing valuation to say the least. But right now it seems a bit crazy, especially if we expect an economic slowdown. Mind you, I've been saying that for 2 years. It's not really happening. So don't take my words for this. But yet just paying a 40 or a 50 times earnings for a stock, that long story short, it tells you that Costco is forced literally to report double-digit growth pretty much every single quarter. If they don't do that, the market's going to panic. They're going to be upset, and then the stock price will go down.
Right. So, Mike, all things considered, is Costco or Walmart winning the battle?
Well, I have shares of Costco, so I have to say I'm a bit biased on this one. But yeah, I'm a little bit more attracted also about low yield, high growth stocks.
Mm.
Costco really fits the pure definition of my perfect dividend triangle where revenue, earnings, and dividend grows constantly. The story that happened over the past 5 and 10 years has pretty good chances to continue in the next 5 to 10 years. I believe they will be able to grow more internationally. They have done well so far with their international market. And one thing that I really like about Costco is they are not necessarily opening stores fairly quickly. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
like about maybe like this year is like 30 new stores, so we're not talking about a huge growth, and they have still less than 1,000. So they choose their location and like according to demographic very carefully. So I believe they will be able to replicate this business model in the future in other countries. And for all of those reasons, I am a very happy Costco member and Costco shareholders.
Okay, so in summary, here are the steps we followed so you can do it on your own, listeners. So, number one, look at the business model. Number two, analyze the dividend triangle. Number three, learn about growth vectors. Number four, consider potential downsides and risks. And number five, have a look at valuation. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mike?
Well, I just want to add that it's a very interesting framework that you can use to compare two or more companies.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is really important to compare them not only in the same sector, but also in the same industry.
Right.
Because sometimes it happens during webinars, for example, that like members are asking me about like two companies in the industrial sector, but I cannot really compare Lockheed Martin with 3M, for example. They're in the same sector, but man, the business model is like so far
Mm-hmm.
between like both of them. It's almost impossible. You could definitely have both in your portfolio and it would just add diversification. So there's no point of comparing. The other thing that is always super important is, as you can see, we have navigated between the narrative. So it is like, what's the business model? What's the growth vectors? What's the potential downsides, the risks? So all of that is part of a story that you build around the stock.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's important to back it up with numbers. So analyzing the dividend triangle, looking at the valuation, look at other financial metrics that could be of interest for you. But when you have a match between your investment thesis, so all the reasons why you want to have this stock in your portfolio, and financial metrics that is backing up your story. So we're not saying just, oh, I believe that Costco is going to grow their business because they're going to open new stores. I also need to see new store opening every single year, because if
Right.
not, my story in my mind is not that strong, and therefore I may make a big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So at Dividend Stocks Rock, we have developed two tools that helps you combine the story with the numbers. So for the story, we have stock cards. So those are like full analysis of the stocks. It's easier for you that because we highlight our own investment thesis, the risk potential, the dividend growth perspective. So you have all the narrative that you need to build something interesting, and then you can back it up with numbers and the comparison tool. So for this episode, pretty much half of the episode, I was just watching my comparison tool to answer those questions.
Right. And you know what? I also based the question on the stock cards and the stock
See?
comparison tool, so it was very easy. But for listeners who are not DSR members, we have made a stock checklist available for free to ease your analysis and comparison process. Right?
Yeah, and it's a great tool to rationalize everything because it's very easy, especially when you are looking for a new company to add to your portfolio, to get excited. You
Mm-hmm.
build the narrative, you are super excited, and you just see the stock going up. But then when you look at these types of checklists, you are forced to get down back to earth, look at the numbers, and really determine which numbers are good and which numbers are bad. And this checklist will highlight both. So you'll see the strengths and the weaknesses, but not just from a story perspective, but actually from a numbers perspective.
So the stock checklist is available at thedividendguyblog.com/checklist. Thank you, Mike, for sharing your thoughts about Costco and Walmart. Listeners, remember, do not leave without downloading your free stock checklist at thedividendguideblog.com/checklist. Also, subscribe to the show now so you do not miss our next episode and leave us a 5-star rating. For the show notes and related content, visit thedividendguideblog.com/183. Next week, we'll look at what's going on with AI. Until then,
Stay
stay
invested.
invested.